Good evening, and welcome to the television graveyard. We are your TV necromancers, Laura Prince and Noah Houlihan. We have come here tonight to examine the spirits of past television shows, to find out which ones could be resurrected, should be resurrected, and which one should just stay doomed. This will be a podcast in which we analyze the history, the hype, and the aftermath of shows that ran only one season, including some that ran only one episode. This month, we are on a quest. With me, as always, is TV's Noah Houlihan.
Go! Continue the quest! And get that dub!
We are doing 2014's The Quest, which was a show that aired for one season on ABC. I always say that they ran for one season, like that's gonna change for some reason.
Well, some of the shows we watch run less than that.
That's fair. This did run a full season. This is a reality show. Most of the reality shows do not get cut off mid-season.
No, there's been a few, but usually it's done and in the can, and you might as well just air it.
Yeah, it's cheaper to just run them.
Also, I feel like reality shows are often summer shows.
Yeah, where they're a little bit less. The standard for, how many people are watching them is a little lower.
Yeah. And so, it's a summer replacement. It's fine. We'll just air it.
Yeah, that makes sense. This is no exception. This aired for the first time on July 31st, 2014, and finished up September 11th, 2014. Now, I will say, this actually does fall into one of those situations, though, where they did start burning off shows.
Oh, they started showing, back-to-back episodes?
Yeah, you were getting 2 a night on the last 3 weeks.
Okay.
But I could also see, they realized they needed to get the shows done before the season started.
Right.
Because, if they'd run they'd run one a week, they'd be going well into October, and shows usually are starting.
True.
So that's kind of an odd choice to start running a show that late in the summer.
Yeah.
Kind of my thought on that. So this is a very interesting reality show.
Wait, this is a reality show?
So let's start with both of our least favorite part of the show.
Yes.
This has nothing to do with the show itself outside of the... I don't know if this is how it aired or if this is just the ABC website cut.
Yes.
But it starts...
Actually, let's start with that. We watched this on ABC.com.
Yes.
So you can watch all of this right now on ABC if you'd like.
Faux free.
For free. I'm not sure if I can download those, so this might be less clips than usual.
Yeah, I know there's definitely some clips on YouTube, so we'll be able to pull some things, but I don't know if we're going to be able to pull everything.
So apologies, listeners, if you're expecting lots of fun clips. There may be less. I'm trying to find a way to do it. Now, let's talk about this opening.
It's this, strange little pre-cold open kind of deal where they talk about the making of the show, and, they kind of immediately smash the fourth wall.
Yes.
And with how immersive the rest of the show is, I hate it.
Yes, it's them basically saying...
The show is written for scripted actors, and then we intertwine reality competition and reality moments where the contestants interact with the scripted characters.
Run!
What? Quick! The strongest will survive, and the strongest will be the one true hero. It's reality competition with scripted storyline.
It's something you haven't seen before. It's a scripted fantasy world with unscripted reality contestants.
We're taking real people and putting them in a world they didn't know existed that they're already prophesized to be in.
Show him.
So weaving the narrative together with the reality so it's natural and organic.
My first reaction is, oh, they think they invented LARPing.
And then my first reaction was, oh, they think they invented reality TV.
Yeah.
Because this whole little, it's a minute and a half long. This weird little self-congratulatory video that airs before every episode explaining the joke, essentially.
Yes.
And I think the show is so much stronger without it, because it also has an opening.
EverRealm, a land of beauty and great magical power, where 12 kingdoms have coexisted in harmony for centuries. Now, a land under siege by Verlox the Darkness. But the fates have summoned 12 outsiders to come to EverRealm's aid. Men and women who do not yet know that deep within them beat the hearts of heroes. 12 paladins who must reclaim the Sun Spear and vanquish evil from the land. This is the quest.
Like a regular theme song, The Quest, Paladins, yes, whatever. That is tonally consistent and makes sense.
I think if there could have been a concern where if they didn't say, hey, this is a reality show, people would think this is a medieval The Office. Where it's just like, oh, it's like this weird medieval show, but they talk to the camera sometimes.
Okay, medieval The Office is $1 million idea.
I know, I'm sorry I just gave that away for free.
But yeah, like, I guess they kind of feel the need to explain because it is an extremely immersive reality show.
Yes.
They try to stay close to the time period. Like, you don't see them using conveniences that they shouldn't have access to.
Yes. And in one aspect, I want to say that this whole, like, explaining, oh, it's a fantasy world, you know, it's never been done before. There's part of me that wants to be like, yes, this is a reality show that takes place in not reality. You could think of, I Want to Be a Superhero. This is before Opposite Worlds, right?
No, it is just after.
So Opposite Worlds?
Opposite Worlds aired the same year in the winter.
Okay.
So it aired about 6 months before this show.
Yeah, so it's not the first one to really do this.
Now, I will say, this is the second ABC reality show we've covered.
Yes.
Of this nature.
Yes, and you know what? There was another one with pirates.
Wait, what?
Yeah, there's a pirate one.
What we're referencing...
I'm just remembering this.
What we're referencing, if you're not like a longtime viewer, listener of us, one of our early episodes, probably maybe the third episode we did, was on a show called Whodunit.
Oh, yes, of course. I didn't even realize where you were going with that sentence.
And it was similar to this in that it was an extremely immersive reality show. But it was a murder mystery.
Yes. And we were supposed to buy in that, like, oh, they died, and there's an ongoing plot. This is after Whodunit, right?
1 year after, yes.
Yeah, so, like, this kind of idea where it's a a reality show that takes place outside of our reality is not new. Pirate Master, that is what it is called. And people were set adrift. And if you got voted out, they put you on a raft and they just pushed you out into the ocean.
Yep, and you'll know that one because we will probably do it at
future episode of Stay Doomed for sure.
Which, did we just reference that Stay Doomed has a future?
Oh, cliffhanger.
Ooh. All right. So...
Oh, and the other point I want to make about this opening.
Yes.
Because this opening super bothered both of us. That's why we're spending so much time on it.
Yeah, we complained about... I think also because we watched it 10 times in a row.
Yeah,
we were like super mad by the last one.
There's all this stuff of like, yeah, we have all these actors, we have all these Murder in a Small Town X, that's another one. We have all these actors, we have these prosthetics, we have these makeup and stuff like that. This reminded me of the television wheel.
Where they explain the gambit.
It's like, we want to show you how hard this was so you can see the intrinsic value of this show.
You know what? Actually, now that we've said this, I get why they do it now. Because now that we've been talking about this, now that we've mentioned Whodunit, Noah, how did the last episode of Whodunit start?
They were like, hey, we didn't really kill people.
So you know what? Maybe that's part of it.
Yeah, you know what? If they hadn't said this in the beginning, I would have thought that 12 people were transferred to another dimension, and one of them was going to become the true hero, and that this kingdom was actually under the attack by, was it Valtrex?
No, it's oh my god, now I'm blanking because I think Valtrex is like.
Valtrex is the herpes medicine.
Yeah, we're gonna edit
that. I'm leaving that in.
It's Verlox.
Verlox.
I have the worst time with fantasy names.
Yeah, me too. So expect more of this.
Fortunately, the rest of the fantasy names are fairly straightforward.
Yes.
I eventually did get the knight's name, despite butchering it in our discussions about the show for the entire 10 episodes.
Yes. So let's get into, I guess, the overall plot here.
Yeah, we have 12 paladins.
Yes.
And they're using paladin as a catch-all term.
Yeah.
Anyone who's like a big role-playing game connoisseur would be like, that's not a paladin, that's not a paladin, that's not a paladin.
Yeah. That's a rogue, that's a bard.
Yeah, like there's one person where you're like, she's a bard.
That's a bard for sure. That's a barbarian.
Yeah, like there's definitely people where you're like, no, you're not. So they're saving the country of EverRealm.
Yes.
Which is actually 12 interlocking countries that have lived peaceably for hundreds of years, but then Verlox the Darkness has come in and he is taking over each country in turn, and Sanctum is the last country standing.
Right.
And it is Sanctum that has called upon these 12 paladins, who happen to all be from 2014 America.
Yes.
They are going to wield the Sun Spear, which is the mythical weapon that can stop Verlox the Darkness, owing to a prophecy that was stated by Creo the Dreamer, who is the royal steward who is known to have prophetic dreams.
Right.
And he's also the first person from EverRealm that we meet.
Yes.
He is, if you will, the Giles from Whodunit, the Ricky Rachtman from Daisy of Love.
Yes.
He is the person who's kind of corralling everybody. The Big John from Rock of Love.
The Big John of Rock of Love, yeah. He's not really the host.
No, there's not really a host.
There's not really a host, which is super interesting for a reality show.
But there are standard presences. Like, it's not... I do think they have that idea of, like, you will always see Creo. You will always see the Knight, who we'll talk about a little bit later, and you will always see the Fates.
Yes.
They are in every episode.
Yes.
So they need to retrieve this ancient weapon, and Creo is guiding them to the castle.
Yes, they all walk, they all get like a scroll saying that they've been selected, and then they walk down a very narrow hallway.
Yes.
And then they end up in they end up in the realm.
Yes, EverRealm.
And
Sanctum.
They have to cut through like a forest.
Yes. And there's another guide with them.
Yes, they have another guide.
We'll call him Sir Redshirt.
Yes. Sir Chum of EverRealm.
For our nerd friends, Redshirt would cover it.
I know chum's a word that we use a lot more on this show, though.
Yeah, we tend to use chum about contestants.
Yes. Yes. Sir Chumley the Jobber.
So Sir Chumley the Jobber is attacked by somebody. We don't really see much about him. A Dark Rider.
Yes, a Dark Rider. And they grab him and they just drag him away while he screams for help. And the paladins flee.
Yeah, which, I mean, I'm not better than anybody. I probably would have been like, nope.
I think this is one of the things that I think hurts this show. Because what happens is, he gets dragged off. Creo's like, are you all okay? Do we have everyone? And Shondo then says...
Wait! Hey, this way, guys! This way! No! Please! Help me! No! We can't do anything?
Man, we should have helped him, man.
Don't worry.
Hey, we never let that happen again, man. We'll never let one person take us. Man, come on.
Again. And from like a reality show perspective, we as the audience are like, yes, you are. Like, what? Were you gonna punch it? Like, we don't know the rules of the world yet, but we know what a reality show is.
Right.
And we know that just attacking someone is something you can't do. So this is a weird moment where I think as an audience, everyone's like, come on.
Now let's take a moment to establish Shondo, because I like to try to establish contestants so that we don't do an info dump. Shondo is an MMA fighter.
Yes.
He is a large man.
Yes.
He is very athletic, very strong, and he is all about performance.
Yes, he reminds me of Terry Crews.
Yes, I could definitely see that. That level of just 24/7, intense.
Yeah.
All about the performance.
But but still admitting warmth out of him.
He's still very kind.
Like, he's buff and he's excited, and he's jacked, but I'd hug him.
Yeah, like, he seems like a very nice man.
Yes.
That also, like, you just want to stay on his good side, because he's a nice man right now. But, like, he'd mess somebody up if he had to.
Yes.
They get to Sanctum, and they're immediately arrested.
Yes.
By the Grand Vizier.
The Grand Vizier is like, I don't want these people here. Send them to prison, sort of.
Yeah, the dungeon.
It's not really a dungeon, because they're technically still outside.
Yeah, it's like the outdoor cell, I
the
guess.
area. The brig.
So then we start kind of having this moment where they're stuck in a room together.
Yes.
And we start to establish other people.
Right. And this is where I believe the design of the game was, these are all strangers. We are going to lock them in a room together, and the only thing they can do is talk.
Right.
So this is where they'll kind of like meet and greet and stuff like that.
Yes.
Do you want to go over characters?
We're going to go over the people, like, I'm going to go over the people who we establish at this point.
Okay, go for it.
We meet Ashley.
Mm-hmm.
Ashley is a horse trainer, and she is immediately looking for a plan to escape, and she is starting to reason out how they might escape. They kind of immediately go like, here's why that's not going to work, and here's why that's going to kill us all. But she is immediately like, plan, action, how are we getting out of this? We meet Leticia. She's this like very strong, athletic young woman. And,
wrestling fan.
And she immediately establishes that she loves wrestling, and like that's how she learned to be an athlete, by like, you know, learning wrestling moves.
Yeah, it's how she became my favorite character. My favorite paladin.
And then we have Patrick, who is like a family man and a math teacher.
Yes.
And so then, like, each of the paladins has received a piece of this weapon.
Yes.
The Sun Spear.
The Sun Spear.
And so Creo brings the Grand Vizier back.
Before the Grand Vizier comes back.
Okay.
This is an important moment, because this mirrors what happens to the guy who gets killed.
Okay.
There's a moment where they're alone, and they're like, well, what do we do? Do we try to escape? And there's people who are like, I think we can climb up this way.
Yeah, Ashley.
And it's like, yeah, there's a ledge here. I can go up to here, go here, get on that roof, and then we'll be on the other side. And everyone's like, well, what about, like, what if Creo comes back and we're gone? And I was like, this is very interesting. And then someone else just goes, that's super unsafe. What if you fall on this, like, sharp thing that is right under you? And it kind of sets, again, this weird precedent of, like, we don't know what the rules of this reality show are. So we don't know if they're supposed to be trying to escape. And again, this feeling of like, let's escape. No, you're not supposed to do that. That's like, let the game start.
It feels like LARPing with a new player.
Kind of, yes.
With like someone who's like, well, I'm going to cast Magic Missile. No, you can't do that yet.
No, that's not what you do. It's like, you know, so I stab you. Well, I'm made of stone, so it doesn't work. Will I stab you again? No, listen.
I stab you with my rock-proof sword.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it feels like you're LARPing with people who have never LARPed before.
Yeah, and like, I think it's a bit of a failure of the show that they don't establish those rules. And like, the idea that there is a choice that they could have made that they are not making is kind of false.
Okay.
And I wish that had been clearer. Like, the whole guy getting killed by the monster. I think it would have been more effective if he had been shot by an arrow out of nowhere and just yelled, run, and fallen forward.
Yes.
Because now we're kind of playing with this idea of the choices of the paladins will affect the story.
And, like, if he's shot by an arrow, what are they going to do?
Exactly.
Like, I guess you run.
So, like, it's kind of setting this up like this might be a choose your own adventure, and like the decisions that these characters make will matter, while that's not really the case.
Right.
And also setting up the audience to be like, well, what is the role of the paladins in this game?
Yes.
So it's off to a little bit of a bumpy start.
Okay. So then the Vizier comes back, and each of them reveals their piece of the Sun Spear, and that's how the Vizier believes them.
Yes.
So they get sent to 6 rooms. Now there are 7 women and 5 men.
Yes.
So people start to fall in together. We have Lena and Katie.
Yes.
We never actually learned that much about Katie as a person.
No. She has white hair and glasses.
And then Lena is athletic and has 3 older brothers.
Yes.
That's the main thing we find out about Lena at this point. And then one of the guys and one of the girls are going to have to room together.
Yes.
So it ends up being Patrick, who's like the family man, this like really just general nice guy. And Bonnie, who is this like less athletic, like kind of quieter, nice girl.
Yes.
And it's her and then this other...
Who's super excited to be there.
Well, it's her and this other woman, Adria, who is the other contestant who's not obviously in their 20s.
Yes.
And this is always interesting to me with reality shows, how, like, usually everybody's between, like, 20 and, like, 26, because those are the people who can ditch their lives for a month.
Yeah.
So it's always interesting when there's players who are more established in life.
Right.
So Adria initially volunteers to room with Patrick because she's the other older player and she feels like it's the least weird and the least inappropriate. And then Patrick's like, yo, I snore. And Adria's like, Adria, out.
Yeah, I'm done.
And Adria and Bonnie, this is the best day of their lives.
Yeah.
Like, they are all in. They are hype. This is, like, a great day for them. And we also established that Shondo lives with Jim. And this is, like, such a great odd couple pairing.
Yeah.
Because Shondo is this, like, intense Terry Crews-esque MMA fighter. And Jim is a lovable dweeb.
Yes.
Like, Jim reminds me of almost every guy I know. In, like, a good way. He reminds me of if Steve from Opposite Worlds was less awkward.
Yeah.
And had, like, a little more charisma and likability, he'd be Jim.
Yeah. Or as Shondo calls him,
Jimbo
Slice.
And it's kind of adorable every time.
It's so adorable that, like, Shondo's, like, cheer and goodness rubs off on Jimbo. Because the fact that Shondo calls him Jimbo Slice makes me like Jim more.
Yeah, Shondo, like, adopts Jim in that way that, like, an extrovert will just adopt an introvert and be like, this is mine now.
Yes.
That's exactly what happened. Shondo is like, this is my friend.
Yes.
And Jim is like, okay, I guess we're friends. And then the 2 other guys who live together are Christian and Andrew.
Yes.
Christian looks more like a medieval knight than the people that are paid to be there.
He looks like the winner of this game.
Yeah, like, he looks... Picture every guy you've ever seen at a Renaissance fair.
Yeah.
There you go, there's Christian, guys. And Andrew is like... Looks like... picture a lacrosse player. That's Andrew.
Yeah! He looks like a lacrosse player.
Yeah, like, just that kind of, like, he is a jock, he is nice, and that's Andrew at this point. And then we also have Jasmine and Leticia, who we have established. And Jasmine's also, like, we don't know a lot about her yet. We know that she is a child.
Yes.
And that she's here because, like, she's, you know, this is something she's always wanted to do. And that there hasn't been as much representation for women of color.
Yes.
In, like, fantasy realms.
Which is true.
Yeah. Like, I really like Jasmine as a character. She, especially in the next episode, which we're gonna get into. So, this is, like, super fun. So then we get to the first challenge. And it's a challenge where they're using a giant crossbow.
Yes, called a scorpion.
And one person has to be up on, like, a crow's nest to guide the scorpion.
Yes.
One person has to go get arrows, and the other person has to fire.
Yes. And, like, firing, there's a matter of, like, cranking it tight.
Aiming it.
And, like, listening to the eyes and being like, all right, 2 clicks this way.
So, our teams are Ashley, Andrew, and Bonnie.
Yes.
Lena, Shondo, and Jim. Adria, Jasmine, and Leticia.
Yes.
And then Patrick, Katie, and Christian.
Yes, these were chosen at random? How did we get these teams?
They picked arrows out of a quiver.
Yes.
And they were assigned by color. Like, if you got a blue arrow, you were one team.
You were on the blue team. Right?
Red, yellow, and white.
Gotcha.
In my notes, it says Adria is hype.
There's a lot of people who are super hype just in general to be doing something.
I would dare say 10 of the 12.
Yeah.
Are, like, every talking head is, like, talking head. Also, this is the best.
Yeah.
It's incredibly endearing. And, like, the early hiccups of the show trying to figure itself out are kind of easily smoothed over when you see how happy they are to be there.
Yeah, the show definitely, like, takes this turn of, like, you are about to watch 12 people have the most fun.
Yeah, like, they're so happy.
It takes a turn from, like, maybe this is a Survivor cutthroat game to, oh, this is an episode of Wild and Crazy Kids.
Oh my god, I didn't think of that comparison, but yeah, that's kind of accurate. Like, there's just so much of, like, oh, you are so happy.
Because there's a moment...
And you're happy for them, because everyone's pretty likable. Especially, like, at this point where, like, no one's done anything yet. Everyone's, like... Everyone's an archetype. Everybody is fairly, like... It's not a VH1 reality show where everybody kind of looks fake. These all look like people you know. Like, Bonnie reminded me of a housemate that I had. You know, Jim reminds me of a lot of guys I know.
Because who's on Shondo's team? Is it Lena?
Lena and Jim.
Lena's the eyes, and Lena's like, 2 clicks this way, and then fire. And he's like, firing the scorpion like we mean it. Koof. And it's like, it's hilarious because he's taking an extra 5 seconds just because he's having the best day.
Yeah, it's really...
Like, from a competition standpoint, it's really dumb.
Shondo is your friend that you drag to the Renaissance Fair who unexpectedly has the best time.
Yeah, exactly.
Because, like, more than anybody, because he's, like, an MMA fighter, and to me that's, like, an occupation that's so rooted in the present, I didn't expect him to go as all in as he does on this.
Yeah.
And, spoiler, Shondo remained all in for his duration on the show.
Well, what's the best is...
He is great.
Shondo's doing all this screaming and dancing, and then it cuts to a talking head with Lena going, I just kept saying he was hitting stuff. Most of the time he wasn't, but it was making him so happy.
And, so then they have to count the arrows and count how many people, like, how many of these enemy scarecrows each one of them hit.
The answer is not enough.
Yes.
Because...
If there had been a real army, nothing would be here anymore.
So, at this point we must introduce Sir Ansgar.
Sir Ansgar.
And, not gonna lie, I totally ended up with, like, a crush on Sir Ansgar.
Oh, did you now?
Yeah, me and the entire cast.
We'll see if that's true. But
wait till the next episode. He is crazy intense.
Yes.
And he is screaming at them. And he says, like, he goes through and tells them who, like, how many each hit.
Yes.
The winners are the Ashley, Andrew, Bonnie team.
Yes.
And they say, like, elect one person who was the leader of your team.
Yeah.
And they elect Bonnie.
Because apparently the eyes are everything.
Yeah, they say, like, you know, Bonnie was the eyes of it, and she did a great job.
Really important point.
Yes.
No one says themselves.
Yes.
No one campaigns. It's just immediately like, it's Bonnie, right? Yeah, Bonnie. Bonnie, you won.
So, Bonnie is given the Kingdom of Sanctum's mark of leadership for being the eyes of the team.
Yes.
So she is given a badge, like a Pokemon trainer badge,
Yeah,
essentially.
exactly, yeah.
For being the best at the challenge. She's won the challenge. Now, the bottom 3 people are going to be sent to the Fates. That is the blue team, which is Christian, Katie, and Patrick.
Yes.
They performed the least well, so now they are going to have to do the elimination challenge.
I believe they only hit 4.
Correct. I did actually write down the score because I wasn't sure. Whenever we do notes on these reality shows, especially the first episode, my notes for the first episode of any of these shows are like 3 pages long, and then it goes to about a page for each subsequent episode, as, like, I don't have to explain to myself who everyone is.
Yeah.
So, a nice moment is that when Bonnie's elected the leader, she straight up cries.
Yeah.
And it, like, but she's happy, and you're happy for her. Like,
yeah.
Like, you're really just like, oh. It's, like, this is a really heartwarming show.
It really is.
Which I did not come here to feel. So then the elimination room is the Hall of the Fates.
Yes.
And it's these 3 incredibly, strikingly beautiful women.
Yeah.
In these incredible dresses. And if anyone knows where the Fate on the left got her clothing, I'm at priorities.
Yeah, holler.
So there's going to be a challenge, and one person will win the challenge, and they will be safe.
Yes.
The other two will be in a situation where the other paladins vote on who to keep.
Yes.
So it's really funny because when Christian walks into the Hall of Fates, he takes one look at the Fates, and you can see the point where he's like, I did not. Oh no. Like, the Fates are very intimidating.
Yeah.
And you see Christian in particular be like,
So, Christian and Kate and Patrick are going to face off in this game. And from a game theory point of view, I love this game.
Yes, this is a cool game.
This is perfect. They have to fire arrows at these targets. Each target represents one of the competitors.
Mm-hmm.
The person with the least number of arrows in their target wins.
Yes.
So the idea being, you want to pump as many arrows into the other two targets as you can as fast as possible.
Yes.
Which means, if you are the best archer, you have an advantage. But you could be the worst archer and have played a better social game.
Yes.
That no one targets you, and you end up winning.
Yes.
Likewise, you could be the best archer and still lose this
if
because
the other
everyone
two
hates
hate
you.
Yeah.
So the idea that this is what the Fate games are, where it's like, it's not just who's the best, it's like the other two can mess with you, is a great idea that I thought would continue moving forward. Spoilers.
Yes. Christian is relieved because he has archery experience.
Yes.
And Patrick thinks that he can beat Katie if he's stuck in the bottom two.
Yes.
So he kind of agrees not to fight Christian as much.
Yes, which is good strategy. He's like, if it comes down to a vote, I have a better chance against Katie, so I'll target or I will target her so she can't win. Mm-hmm. Which is what I'm saying about this game theory.
Yeah. Christian crushes.
Yes, absolutely.
And this is the moment where I realized they've obviously had training.
Yeah.
Because their form is quite good
mm-hmm.
for people who don't necessarily have archery training.
Yeah, it's definitely not people picking up a bow for the first time.
Because, I have very, very minimal archery training.
Oddly, so do I.
Their form is better than mine.
Yeah.
Easily. And I have a rigged bow.
Oh, do you?
Yes. This is, the most Katniss Everdeen thing. I have my mother's bow.
Right.
That has pink arrows.
Nice.
Because, of course, it does. It's rigged to be lighter. It doesn't have a standard resistance. It's rigged with 5 pounds less resistance.
Oh, interesting.
That's why I use my mom's bow.
Okay, so you don't have as much power behind your arrows.
No, but I can actually shoot the damn thing.
Right.
So it's 6 of one, half a dozen the other. So Christian wins. There's going to be a lot of weird personal anecdotes in this episode, I think.
Yes, there is.
So Christian is safe. It's between Patrick and Katie.
Yes.
And they have some time to, think about it and talk about it. And the consensus between a lot of them seems to be that, Katie just doesn't have her head in the game.
Yeah.
Katie's not really buying in as hard as everyone else is.
Yeah. And this is interesting because everyone gets to discuss first before the vote.
Around this large stone table.
And it doesn't seem to be a lot of, I'm campaigning for this person because they're my friend, or this person's a threat. The thing they keep coming back to is always, which one of these people will help us become the true hero?
Yes, because the winner is going to be the one true hero.
Yes. This feels like a way better Opposite Worlds. Because we see them being who will help us get to the future?
Yes.
So,
there's a lot of gameplay in this that feels like
this is what Opposite World wanted.
Maybe they watched Opposite Worlds and were like, okay, so this is what we're not doing. So, it's not a secret ballot, which I found fascinating.
Yes.
It's very dramatic. I really like this elimination mechanic because it looks cool as hell.
Right.
the two people who are up for elimination must face the Fates.
Yes.
Who, again, are these three crazy stunning women.
Yes.
And as their paladins come in, they stand at a nice angle at each of their shoulders to be, peak dramatic.
Right.
While there's dramatic lighting on the two paladins who are up for elimination. And Patrick is saved by everyone except for Lena and Ashley.
Yeah, it's important to note, you don't vote someone out. You vote to save.
Yes.
Which is a very interesting mechanic.
Yes.
It's more like, it's nicer.
Yeah.
It just feels nicer.
Yeah, and Lena and Katie were roommates, so it makes sense that Lena would want to save Katie.
Mm-hmm.
And Ashley and Katie had also become close, so
Yeah. I'm guessing, in terms of gameplay here, the story that has happened is you messed up in a game, so you have to face the Fates. You messed up in a game again.
Yes.
So, you should be going home. Because you messed up twice.
Mm-hmm.
But then your friends save you.
Yeah.
Which I think is much nicer than, the paladins must choose someone to be banished.
Yes. And that's... A lot of this... If you're watching or listening to this and you happen to be on your computer, just pull up a TV tropes tab. Because I'm going to probably use a lot of trope words.
Okay.
The further we get into this. But this is a really... great elimination mechanic that you're voting to save instead of voting to leave, and the idea that then the paladins turn around and see who voted for them.
Yeah, that's not secrets, which is another just interesting, nicer thing.
It's not only not secret to the audience, it's not secret to the paladins.
Right.
Which is really interesting, because then, if Patrick looks over and sees Lena and Ashley didn't vote for him, will Patrick have an axe to grind with them later? We don't know this yet.
Mm-hmm.
So, then the paladins are dismissed from the Hall of Fates, except for Katie.
Yes.
She leaves her piece of the sun spear on the altar, and then steps out into the darkness, and is vaporized in a less expensive version of Thanos' snap.
Yes. And that means that she is banished from the realm.
And then, when we see the Hall of the Fates, a ghost... graphic of Katie appears over the Hall of Fates to look down on the rest of the paladins.
Yes.
Which is a cool mechanic. I really like the gone but not forgotten aspect of that, because they make sure to show that, they make sure to show those ghosts every episode.
Yeah.
So we never...
The journey here.
We never forget about the people who have left. And unlike a lot of reality shows, people regularly mention other people who have left.
Yeah.
This is a really, the TV trope I'm going to use here is True Companions.
Okay.
Of, they set up this hero's quest, and they're all... One of them's the one true hero and is going to be the main character. But they have this league of companions that are these people who are important to them for some reason.
Okay.
And I think that's super interesting. So, that's the end of the first episode.
Yeah, well, is there not because here's another thing about this show. It might not have started here, but it was very common for there to be a good chunk of story after elimination.
This one does not.
Okay.
This one's also the first episode, and I feel like they wanted to stick hardest to the reality show format here.
Right.
Because this is also the least plot-heavy episode. We
True.
don't find out a lot about anybody.
Yeah, we're establishing here.
We don't even actually find out that much about Ansgar or Creo. We don't find out much of anything about anybody outside of the contestants.
Right.
Or the Verlox, Episode 2.
Yeah, let's move on.
This starts with Sir Ansgar the Fierce waking everybody up.
Yes, harshly.
Yeah, he's not a cool dad. He is banging on the door telling you to get your ass up. Mm-hmm. Not in those words. Get ye old ass up. It's colder today. Because I've noticed the changes in the costumes.
Oh, interesting.
The costume design is something I want to talk about. The Paladins' outfits. Much more thoughtfully designed than Opposite Worlds.
Yeah, it's not just white and brown.
It's not ill-fitting white clothing.
Yeah.
It is clearly, they have a uniform.
Yes.
They have what they're wearing. But it's practical and thoughtful. It is gendered. It is like, there's the female variant and the male variant.
Yeah.
But the female variant is still practical. Like, it's not like they're wearing, like, shirts and awkward breastplate, or skirts and awkward breastplates. They're, like, in...
Like it's an MMO?
Yeah, like, they're in, like, leather tunics. They all look the same. There's nothing really, like, color-wise differentiating them from each other.
Right.
But they have cool capes when it's cold out.
Yes.
Like, and I think that's a good thing of, like, someone in the design department went, hey, there might be a point where it's cold out.
Yeah.
I should plan on that. No one had to Amazon Prime in a friggin' parka in the right shade of brown.
Opposite worlds.
This is gonna be like The Quest with bonus shade at Opposite Worlds.
Yeah.
So then Creo coaches them because the Queen wishes to see the Paladins.
Yes.
So Creo is coaching them all, crash course in Queen etiquette. Everyone genuflects, and we meet the Queen, who is gentle and kind.
Yes.
So we meet Queen Ralia. She is referred to by name maybe twice.
Yeah, it's usually just the Queen.
Yes, or, Your Grace.
My Queen.
Or, my Queen, I don't want it. No one does that, thank God. The Queen is hopeful. She believes in them immediately.
Yeah. And
demands they be treated well.
Yes.
The Vizier is, like, not thrilled about that.
Yeah, he doesn't.
The Vizier is like, I don't care for them.
I don't trust them.
The Vizier is a cat. He, like, reminds me of a cat.
Yeah.
I don't like it. Like, he just, like, is grumpy and fussy and, like, just kind of a jerk.
Yes, while Creo is a dog, where it's like, hey, look, I found these people with the sun spear. I brought them.
Yeah, Creo is Doug from Up. Like, he's so happy.
Yeah, hey.
And then there's Ansgar, which I want to point out in my notes, I spell 36 different ways. So, a dying man bursts into the hall. A dying knight.
Oh, right, yes.
This injured knight bursts in, and Ansgar pleads for help to, like, save this man, and he's like, we only have a few days before Verlox comes. Right. And everyone's like, oh, well...
we should get to work then.
Poopy.
Let's drop this dead man.
Yeah, so Ansgar's like, alright, we gotta start training now. And so they're doing a little bit more training, and then Ansgar holds up a piece of sun spear. Leticia has misplaced her piece of the spear.
She dropped it while horseback riding.
Yes. And it's a big deal that, because you lost a piece of Excalibur.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Whoops!
And so then they start getting very paranoid about it, so they'll be like, peace check.
Peace check. Yep, got mine.
So they do, it is a tournament gauntlet challenge. You're on horseback for the whole gauntlet.
Yes.
You are shooting an arrow at a target, or 3 arrows at a target, I believe.
Yes.
Then you are throwing a spear at a target.
Yeah.
And then you are doing a joust.
You do a joust.
Not against someone else.
Just just try to hit a target with a jousting stick.
Yes. And then you need the Warhammer.
To smash a skull.
Yeah, you're going to go full Baratheon here.
Yeah.
And smash a skull with a Warhammer.
Yeah.
And each thing is worth a certain amount of points.
Yes, the spear and the archery have a target with different point variants.
Yes.
The joust and the skull smashing are both worth 15 apiece.
Yes. So the first person to go is Jasmine.
Yes.
And we didn't see much of Jasmine in the first episode, so this is essentially her establishing character moment, is her crushing this challenge.
Destroys this.
She beasts this challenge in a way that's like, oh, like, she went from being under the radar in the first episode to being suddenly, like, a contender.
Yes.
Ansgar praises her in a way that has more romantic or sexual tension than any two people in Daisy of Love.
Oh, yeah, it's like...
So what is your name?
My name is Jasmine, sir.
Well done, Jasmine.
Thank you, sir.
Where did you learn all these things?
My imagination.
Your imagination. Well learned, sir. You got 91 points. Well done.
Thank you, sir.
And I like the spirit. Keep it up.
I find that very impressive.
And we start making fun of this immediately.
Yeah.
Like, I love this show, but like this part was so funny.
Immediately we're like, what is happening here? He's like, that was quite impressive. I'll be keeping my eye on you. Ashley goes next, and she's the horseback riding girl, right?
Yes. She does not fall off the horse. She does great with the horse.
Yeah.
Not great with anything else.
Misses the target every time with the archery. I think she gets 2 points on the spear, and then manages to hit the joust and the hammer.
Mm-hmm.
And then the tone is different with Asgar.
Yes.
As if he was like, you scored 32 points. It's not good enough.
Not into that.
I am completely flaccid.
Oh my god.
Join the others.
I can't believe you just said that.
That is was my legit reaction. I was like, oh, he's completely flaccid. He can't. This was not good enough for him.
This was not made better when Bonnie said, Bonnie does not do particularly well and says, it's like disappointing daddy. I'd love to say we handled this maturely.
Called him daddy. This is going to be the joke for the rest of the show to us.
Yeah, and it was.
And it was.
Leticia does not do well, but she does better than Ashley. And then we get a bunch of people who are really... We get a montage, essentially.
Yes.
People just... varying degrees of success.
We're not going to skip my favorite moment with, I believe, Lena, are we?
No, sure, we don't have to.
Lena... I believe it's Lena. Forgive me if it is not. Lena says, I have a problem because I'm ambidextrous. So I don't know which hand is doing things. And then they cut to her throwing the wrong end of the spear at the target. I was like, what does that have to do with being ambidextrous?
Yeah, like she just throws like the butt end of the spear.
Yeah.
It's like if you shot an arrow just backwards with the pointy part toward you.
It's like if you went to drive a car and you got in the back seat and went, sorry, I'm ambidextrous.
And then Andrew like bows before the queen after his run and calls her my lady.
Is my lady? Damn it!
And then like clearly violating queen etiquette. And Creo looks like he's like, oh no! Like if you see Creo at this point, Creo's like, ah!
Well, the queen then says, did you hear that? Called me my lady. And then she does that like happy shoulder shake.
Yeah, I have a...
I got called my lady.
Yeah, I have a note that she's like, maybe she thinks Andrew's attractive. There's a lot of weird sexual tension in this episode.
Yeah, there's some sexual tension in this. You can cut it with a sword.
Bonnie does not do well, but Bonnie swears she can do better.
Yes.
So this is like a big establishing moment for Bonnie of, I can do better. I swear I will do better.
Mm-hmm.
Then we have Shondo.
Yes.
Shondo just like, this challenge means nothing. He is just on it.
Yeah. Thump, thump, thump.
Like, he beats this challenge to the point where it's like, almost swings into being hilarious.
He wins by 100 points.
Yeah, like...
He gets 180 some points.
Yeah, and like Jasmine, who's the second best performer, had gotten 80.
Yes.
Like, he smashes this challenge.
Well, we also have to talk about Christian.
Yes. Christian does not do well.
Yeah, and everyone's kind of bummed because he was giving everyone tips on what to do.
Yeah, he was like a super know-it-all.
So he bombs the challenge, and the Grand Vizier leans over and goes, who is that woman on the horse? Like, that's a man. That's a man.
Yeah. So, the Vizier misgenders Christian.
Yes.
I think we made a joke that he was cancelled.
Yeah. Then they canceled the Grand Vizier.
Oh, I don't know why my notes on this are, like, horrifically vulgar.
Well, because we were making all those jokes about, depending on how well you did, was how turned on Asgar was.
Like, instead of saying someone did poorly, I said someone ate a dick on the challenge.
Yeah.
We might have been a little drunk.
We might have been drunk when we watched this episode. Yeah.
So then the bottom three are Christian, Ashley, and Jimbo Slice.
Yes.
And it's the horseshoe challenge.
Yes. They are taken to see the fates, and I don't 100% understand this challenge. You have to put on an apron.
Yes.
Use tongs to pull out horseshoes.
Mm-hmm.
Hammer them. And then use 6 nails to attach them to a wheel. And, like, all the horseshoes are different sizes, so you have to get it, like, perfect.
Yes.
I don't understand the hammering them part.
I mean, it's a smithing thing. Like, you would have to hammer them into, like, the appropriate shape.
Oh, absolutely. Here's the thing. They're not actually being heated in a kiln.
That's true.
Like, so, like, what is done in the show in terms of game theory to establish a properly hammered thing? Because there's a moment where he hits it and, like, some black soot, like, comes off. And I was like, is that what you're just trying to break off with the hammer?
Maybe?
It's very unclear.
And the challenges are often shot in a way that, like, they're very quick.
Yes.
So this challenge in particular was the one where I was like, what's happening?
And the two things I want to point out is, in one of the talking heads, they're like, Christian didn't put his apron on right away. He's touching the horseshoes with his hands. He's all over the place. And those were things they specifically said not to do. But then there's no, like, discussion of whether he's disqualified or if there is any penalty for this.
Yeah, he's not penalized. It's not, like, discussed whether it's cheating. But in the end, it doesn't really matter because he doesn't win.
He doesn't win.
Jimbo
Slice.
Jim wins.
Yes.
And Jim is safe for another day.
Yes.
But Ashley and Christian do not stop.
Yes, they have to finish, which is interesting.
I don't know if they have to finish or if they choose to finish.
Well, I think there's also an element of, after Jim wins, he is not established as the winner.
Yes.
So there's some sort of, like, he might be wrong in what he's done, so the person who comes in second would win.
Right.
The other thing I want to point out is we have lost the concept from the first challenge, where there's also a social economic advantage here, because there's no screwing anyone over, there's no targeting each other. It's simply who does this the best.
Yes. Oh, it's also we forgot to mention the mark of the Pokemon badge for this one.
Oh yes,
Shondo.
Yes. Shondo gets the mark of dexterity.
Like it's not even like a little close. Ansgar kind of looks at him and goes like, "Well, sure is Shondo."
Yeah.
So then there are 9 people voting.
Yes.
And it is 4-4.
Yes. And Andrew is the deciding vote.
And Andrew is notably close to Christian. So
That's his roommate.
Andrew saves Christian, and Christian is left to stay. Now, so that leaves Ashley to be banished.
Yes.
Now, this show starts there is now plot after the elimination.
Okay.
We see, like, Shondo congratulating Jim. Bonnie mourns for Ashley because they were friendly, and Leticia and Jasmine console her. And then they're eating dinner.
Yes.
And the queen asks to join them for dinner, and they take this as the honor it is. And they kind of explain a little bit about the history. That Creo's family has been serving as the royal steward for a couple of generations now. At least 2 generations back from Creo.
Right.
According to my sources, which we will get into later. So everyone's eating. They discuss how, like, the queen's brother died. And so she's queen. She doesn't have a husband because her husband also passed away. And the vizier joins them. And there's, like, a musical sting when the vizier joins them that kind of, like, broadcasts that he's, like...
Yeah, it's not a good sting.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, are you evil? Interesting.
It's kind of like a banana.
Yeah,
Like evil music. And the queen makes a toast and everyone drinks. And the queen begins to choke.
Yes.
Very Queen Gertrude.
I wonder if Verlox would have gotten as powerful as he is today had my brother sat on the throne as he was destined to.
The prince looks down on you with pride, I can assure you of that.
Well, I hope he does, Sir Ansgar. But enough about the past. Why, Vizier?
Majesty?
Come over here.
My pleasure. Paladins?
Bring some wine for the Vizier. Let us salute the future. To the Paladins, our great heroes from the other world, who have come to free our lands of the evil that has overtaken us. I thank you all for your selfless dedication and your bravery. May the fates be with you all.
And with you, Your Grace. Well, paladins, how do you think you did in your test? My queen?
My queen.
What?
What's going on?
What's going on?
What's happening? My queen.
Queen has been poisoned.
Yeah.
Ansgar holds her up as she begins to choke and carries her out. And the vizier announces that she's been poisoned. And Creo and the vizier run out after the queen. And the episode ends with the 10 paladins remaining, all kind of like, oh no.
Yeah.
And that's how that episode ends.
Yeah.
The episodes also begin to start ending on cliffhangers.
Yeah. It starts to feel more like a show than a reality show.
Yeah,
the way it ends.
Which is an interesting mechanic, that the elimination is not the most important part of the show.
Yeah.
The way it would be on like a dating show.
Mm-hmm.
Where I can't think of a dating show where it doesn't end on the elimination.
I can't think of a reality show where it doesn't end on the elimination.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of like Whodunit. Did Whodunit end with the murders or start with the murders?
It ends on we watch someone die.
Okay. I, for some reason, couldn't remember. We tend to binge watch these shows, so sometimes the endings and the beginnings get a little bit, like, blurry for me. And also, we watched Whodunit a year ago. So, episode 3 is the next morning.
Right.
Actually, we talked about the history a little bit.
Sure.
I want to talk about... I'm going to say a lot of things that sounds like I'm pulling out of my butt.
Okay.
So, I would like it to be made clear that I'm not doing that. Because I have a lot of stuff that's not necessarily in the show.
Right.
Because The Quest has an extremely active fan community to this day.
Oh.
There's a Facebook group called the Quest Army, and they are extremely responsive and extremely friendly. And one of them sent me the Quest book.
Yeah.
Which she was largely responsible for writing with the help of several other members of the Quest Army. And it's a 127-page document.
Wow.
That includes history, a summary of the show, a summary of each paladin. A website called The Geek Initiative did interviews with several of the actors and several of the contestants.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of those are included, and a lot of that information is included. And a lot of lore about, like, what the kingdoms are like, what the prophecy is, who the people of Sanctum are.
Okay.
And then, like, a little bit of it is kind of the, like, where are they now? What are we now? But, so I have this is the single largest show for research.
Yeah. By
a landslide. I think Whodunit might be next.
Like, it's a fantasy novel. There's all this background.
Yeah, there's a ton of lore. A lot of which we probably won't even get to discuss on this show because it's not... we're already an hour deep and we're on episode 2.
Yeah, this is a two-parter, guys.
Yeah, we actually had this discussion today. So I just wanted to establish that I'm not just, like, making stuff up when I say stuff that's not necessarily, like, in the show or made explicit in the show.
Right.
Some of this stuff is just things that I found in my bountiful research. The Geek Initiative ran these incredible interviews with the cast. So occasionally I'm going to come up with something that, like, was from one of them. This is really just a cool, like, resource to have.
Yeah.
I wish we had more shows that had this level of resource.
Oh, yeah, sure. I really want a book about opposite worlds. Like,
how do you not want a book about opposite worlds?
And then they traveled to the Wild West.
I would love Geek Initiative level interviews on the with the cast.
No,
of Opposite
I'm talking
Worlds.
about, like, a book of lore about opposite worlds. Where it's like, and they actually traveled to the Wild West.
Screw
and
you.
The science behind... No, I'm selling myself on this in this joke.
I was like...
The science that allows these two times to exist parallel with each other.
You have to remember, like, my summer reading this summer was a book called Song of the Spider-Man.
I don't have to remember that.
About how, like, what happened with the musical of Spider-Man. So when you said, like, a book about opposite worlds, I'm like, I am first in line.
Again, I'm saying the lore, not what actually happened. I'm saying the lore.
Yeah, no, I still want it.
All right.
All right, episode 3. It's the next morning, and the Grand Vizier is out of ideas.
Yes, the queen is very poisoned.
The queen is super poisoned, and he's like, well, tonally, this episode is the most like whodunit.
Yeah.
This is the most detail, this is the most, makeup heavy.
Yeah, because they have to go through all these scrolls to find one that matches the queen's symptoms exactly.
Yes.
So that they can find the proper antidote. Excuse me. This moment I find very annoying.
Yes.
They are going through it, and the symptoms are something like blue lips, dark eyes, and skin like ice. And they're reading stuff and like, skin is dark. Could that mean ice and stuff like that? Maybe it's just different wording.
Yeah, no one touched her.
Yeah, no one touched her. I don't know. And they're going through it, and they're having an argument about, like, it could be this one or it could be this one. Well, I think it's this. I think it's this. And as they're having this argument, Creo's like, I have more scrolls. And they're like, oh, so the answer wasn't freaking here. Like, as a player, I would have been real upset if he was like, oh yeah, I forgot to give you these. Hey, here it is.
To me, that feels super realistic because I've been Creo in that situation. I think that's why you're so mad, is because I think I've done this to you.
Yeah. Oh, you can't find it? Oh, it might be in my pocket. Oh, yeah.
You lost something like a week ago that you were like, I haven't seen the Nintendo Switch in a while, and I produced it from like a reusable shopping bag.
Yes.
In like the closet.
And now I didn't have time to make any Mario Maker levels. It's very sad. It's very sad to be me.
Let's make a Quest Mario Maker level. That'd be fun.
Okay.
So they choose an antidote, and they're like, they need dragon tears.
Yes.
My guess was this was going to be an herb.
Yes.
Nope. Super literal.
Yeah.
It is
the tears of a dragon.
Yes. So they go to find the collector, who is not Benicio del Toro.
No, not. It's Miracle Max. Or Miracle Max's wife.
No, it's Miracle Max.
Yeah.
It's a female character, but her makeup design is Miracle Max.
Yeah, it's very close to Miracle Max.
It's not Carol Kane. She's not that beautiful. She looks exactly like Miracle Max. We started yelling Princess Bride quotes over each other. Yes.
Have fun storming the castle.
So she is going to help them with the ingredients, but they have to work for it.
Yes.
Because reality show.
So there's ingredients behind these doors. And the idea is you get through a door, you grab the ingredient, and then you move on to the next door, and you break through that one, and you grab an ingredient, and you break all the way through until you get dragon tears. And there's only a certain number of each ingredient behind each door.
It goes down a little bit each time.
So the idea is you can force there to be a bottom three for how this show works.
Yes.
The first door is, there's a lock that has tar over it.
Yes.
So they have to scrape the tar off.
Yes.
And unlock it and get through. Everyone struggles with this. It's tough.
Yes.
But towards the bottom, we get Bonnie.
Yes.
We get, I forget, who else?
Christian
and someone else.
The bottom three for this one are Jim, Bonnie, and Christian.
Jim, Bonnie, and Christian. Christian loses his key.
Yes. So even if he gets the tar off, when he gets the tar off his lock, he cannot unlock it.
He cannot open it. So he's just digging around looking for this key, and Bonnie's having trouble with the tar.
Yes.
And Bonnie says, I will look for your key if you get tar off my lock.
Yes.
And they switch, and I think it's Leticia is like, this is bullcrap.
Yeah, Leticia does not buy it.
This is BS. But Bonnie's looking for the key, and Christian's like, I'm not really gonna... I considered not helping. And he doesn't do as good of a job as he could.
Yeah.
Getting the tar off of this lock. It is at this point where I decide Christian's not really a contestant.
Okay.
I start forming this theory that he is working for Verlox. I keep getting... Verlox. Because, one, he looks the most like an actor that would be in this world.
Fair.
And two, he's been bad at everything.
Yes, okay.
So, like, I'm wondering, like, are you failing on purpose because eventually you're going to turn on the group?
Yeah, and I love that idea because one of our biggest issues with Whodunit
Yeah.
was that one of the contestants was the killer, but they did an absolute crap job making that mechanic work.
Right.
Because there was no evidence that that person was the killer, and that person won a bunch of challenges and actually had to be coached to play worse.
Yeah.
So this feels like, again, they watched Whodunit the previous summer and were like, okay, if we're going to have an inside man for Verlox, we should make him smarter and more obviously not a strong player.
Yeah, so I immediately grow suspicious of Christian here and think that maybe he's not actually playing the game. This is where another theory comes into my brain.
Uh-huh.
I wanted it to be possible for them to fail.
Yes.
Because the first 2 episodes were all about training.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they are learning to be heroes. This is the first time where there's an event with stakes.
Yes. The queen could die.
I was wondering if there was an event where there could be a fail state, where it's like, you were asked to do this. You were unsuccessful. Now the story will do the plot where the queen dies, instead of the story where the queen survives.
I would love to know that, because the actor said there was loads of improv.
Oh, well, somebody has to win this.
Yes.
Like, there is no fail state.
Right.
Yeah, it's absolutely, like, the show, to use D&D terms, the story is on rails.
Yes.
Like, no matter what happens, you will get to the point where you do X so Y can happen.
Right.
This is not a branching story.
Right.
And I was a little disappointed in that, like, no matter what, we will reach whatever point you're on.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I guess you can kind of also make the argument, like, the whole thing is about a prophecy.
Yes.
So you could say, like, well, they were fated to succeed. But there was a part of me that was like, I wonder if they're going to go this route. And when it was clear that they weren't, I was a little bummed.
I also think we're looking at it like people who are more into fantasy and science fiction and
LARPing.
Nerd culture than some of the viewers might have been.
That is true.
If there was a fail state, would that be violating the contract, the implicit contract a TV show has with the viewer? Of, like, when you watch, say, Daisy of Love, if Daisy had left the show with no one, what was the point?
Well, I'm not saying a fail state in that there is an element where, like, the show just ends because they all die or something like that. I'm just saying, like, the stakes are the queen might die.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't succeed, the queen dies, and we tell the story without the queen. And, like, there could be parts of, like, upcoming episodes where it's like, you need to do this. Or you need to travel to that realm over there. Or, like, the neighboring town.
Yeah.
There was a shortcut to it, but only the queen knew it. Okay. So you're going to have to go through the marsh. And just be like, okay, because we failed here, this is happening. Had we not failed, we know that would have happened. Something like that, I was, like, hoping they would go into it.
See, the one counterpoint, though, is that since it's a 10-episode show, if the queen had died, that might have just always been part of the script, and we might have been looking at it as, like, would there have been a way the queen could have survived?
Oh, I think through gameplay, you could have shown it.
Yeah, okay.
Because the idea I had was, like, let's say that Dragon Tears was really, like, an herb.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? There is a game that you play where it's like, get as much of it as possible. The person who gets the most will get the badge.
Right.
The 3 who get the least will get the fate. As a team, you need 300.
Okay.
So, like, it's very clear, like, this is what needs to happen for you to save the queen. If you don't, you will not save the queen.
Okay.
Like, I was hoping for elements like that.
Yeah, I imagine it would have been very difficult to re-script on the fly.
Well, you write it all.
I know.
You write all of the choose your own adventure endings.
I do think it's interesting because for the contestants, I believe that they didn't know. The experience the contestants have would be an extremely expensive LARP.
Mm-hmm.
Because they are, like, really in this. And they don't know if this antidote is going to save the queen.
Yeah.
Andrew wins the challenge. He's the first one to put his antidote together.
So real quick, it's the door that you got to get the tar off.
Yes.
After that, you have to cut rope. Is that what the next one is?
I'm not sure.
I think it's cut rope, and then there's one you have to dig underneath.
Yes.
And then the last one you just plow through, like it's most extreme elimination challenge.
Yeah, you have to, like, Kool-Aid Man your way.
It was just like, use your strength, get through this. And he's like, oh, okay. Pow!
Yeah, and Andrew's like, really? Okay.
Yeah.
So Andrew wins the mark of wisdom.
Wisdom. And it was like, yeah, the way you got that tar off.
The way
Wise.
you Kool-Aid Man through that
The way
door.
you dug that hole. Wise.
And when they create the potion, the hag screams at them to run.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's really important to note that when they're running away, Bonnie falls.
Yeah.
Like, full Halloween Scream Queen falls.
Yeah.
And Adria runs back to help her.
Mm-hmm.
And this bond between Adria and Bonnie is really important in the series, as
Yeah.
well as the bond between Bonnie and Patrick. The three of them kind of have this, like, small family that starts to form. Andrew gives her the potion, and the queen starts to come around. And we're now dealing with the idea that Jim, Bonnie, and Christian are in the bottom three.
Yeah.
And we have some time before the Fates Challenge, and Jim and Bonnie are really upset, but they're very well liked. And public opinion doesn't seem super charitable toward Christian at this time.
Yeah, because he's in the bottom. Like, the way that they've been voting has been like, who shows the most skills and will be the most helpful in this battle. Christian's now been in the bottom 3 times in a row.
Out of 3 times.
Out of 3 times, 100% of the time. So now, like, they question his value.
Yes. This is also when we start kind of seeing them start building the tropes of who each character fulfills. The editors do a really good job of creating kind of this, who each character is in the quest. And they're already building Bonnie as the heart of the group.
Yeah.
We see them sitting around, and Bonnie sings a song called The Ballad of EverRealm that she wrote. That's a really sweet little song, and she sings well, and it's this establishing character moment of their growing camaraderie.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next talking head, Shondo literally calls her the heart of the group.
Yeah.
After I've taken this note, and I wanted to be like, I was right!
Yeah.
So we kind of have this, the scale challenge now. It's another, like, chemistry-esque challenge. And there is red, white, and yellow bone that need to be ground in the right quantities to balance the scale.
Yes.
So they're kind of racing against time to set up this, and they're working like crazy to do this. It's not terribly visually interesting.
It's a little bit hard to understand what's going on, but from what I understand, they had giant pieces of chalk.
Yes.
That they ground up and then put into these like little spoons and tried to make this scale, this like balanced scale. And Bonnie says something like, I see that Christian has a lot of white, and that made me realize that I need red. And I was like, are they different weights? Like, this is one of the unclearest of the...
Yeah, like, how are they weighted? This is a weird one. This was also, I had this, like, weird thought during this. I was like, it would have been really funny if they had, like, a stoner archetype who was like, I know what a gram looks like. like, that was my first thought of, like, but one of the things fascinating about the show is how little the paladins reference anything modern.
Yeah, I mean, that also could be editing, but, like, there's definitely a feel like everyone is genuinely in it.
Yes.
Like, there's no one delivers any lines where it's like, yeah, and then there's dragons, and, like, where it feels forced and that they're, like, playing pretend.
No.
Everyone feels like they are in this world.
Yeah, like, nobody is making the kind of comments that, like, I'm making about, like, and her makeup design is Miracle Max. Like, no one's saying anything like that. They are completely immersed in this world. Bonnie wins.
Bonnie wins this one.
And there's a great character moment where Bonnie wins and Lena crows in victory.
Yeah.
Lena is so thrilled that Bonnie has won.
Mm-hmm.
So we kind of see how important Bonnie is to the group. And so Bonnie has saved herself. And it's Jim versus Christian.
Yes. And Shondo really pushing for Jimbo Slice.
Yeah.
Because no one buys in more than Jimbo Slice.
Yeah, he advocates very strongly for Jim. And when they do the vote, only Shondo and Jasmine vote for Jim.
Yeah, it's a bummer.
And everyone else votes for Christian.
Which surprised me.
And I am mad.
Yeah, I'm really surprised that they went with Christian again.
My note, eliminated, Jim. Wait, what the shit? This sucks.
Yeah, it's a bummer.
Because I really liked Jim.
I like Jimbo Slice.
And I really liked Jim and Shondo together and would have watched a reality show that was just like them on a road trip.
Mm-hmm.
And Leticia has this thought that Bonnie advocated for Christian because she felt he had helped her in the challenge.
Right.
So Leticia felt like everyone had voted for Christian because they thought he helped Bonnie. And Leticia mourns that she was not as strong as Jasmine.
Yeah.
Because Jasmine and Shondo voted for Jim because Jim was the better man.
Mm-hmm.
And Leticia voted for Christian because everyone else voted for Christian.
Right.
And so she kind of mourns that, like, Jasmine had been stronger than she was and Jasmine had done the right thing. And Shondo mourns for Jim. And then we see them outside.
Yes.
And they're kind of just, like, doing tasks, cleaning up the castle yard.
Yeah, this is just interesting in general, because it's like, well, you're here, so you're part of this community, so you're going to help.
Yeah.
So, like, we see... There's also someone whose job it is in the castle to walk these two dogs.
They're hunting hounds.
And we just see... It's just cool that we see them all the time. But it's weird to be like, yes, you're going to live your fantasy of being in a fantasy world. You're going to get to do everything that you get to do in a fantasy world. You know what part of that is? Horse poop.
Yeah, chopping wood.
Get shoveling.
And, like, this is one of those shows where I feel like you and I both spent a lot of time thinking about, like, what we would do in this show.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just picturing the B-roll of them all helping out and then me chasing the guy walking the two Irish wolfhounds. Like, let me pet those dogs! And just being useless. I would have been voted out, like, immediately on the show. Because I would have been obnoxious and useless. But then an alarm sounds. And then we kind of realize why they're out there. Because they're out there for plot reasons.
Right.
So a horse panics and the castle is under attack.
Yes.
And then that is how that episode ends.
Trolling the dungeon, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, it feels... No.
No, I do not remember
No,
correctly.
they're just under attack and alarm sounds.
Oh, that's right, okay. Yeah.
Episode 4 starts and it's a drill.
Yeah, it turns out it's a drill.
So then, Asgard is super mad.
Mm-hmm.
Asgard is like, if that had not been a drill, we'd all be dead.
Yes.
You guys suck.
Mm-hmm.
We need to keep doing stuff.
Yes. Is this where he asks who's to blame?
I don't think so yet. I think he asks who to blame when they're like training with the swords.
No, I think this is who's
to
blame.
You're right. Okay.
Yeah. And this is where Asgard's like,
as you maybe have figured out, this was a drill. Verlox's army is closing in, but fortunately, he has not yet arrived. If he was here, the castle would be taken by now, and Verlox would be sitting up there, and he would rule EverRealm.
Who is responsible for you showing up like this before me?
Whose fault is it? It's my fault. You deserve to be prepared, and it's my job to prepare you. And that's exactly what I'm going to do. You saved the Queen. My Queen. And I thank you for that. The kingdom thanks you for that. Tomorrow, we're gonna start again. Training and a test.
And they're all like, oh no, Daddy.
Yeah. And
sorry.
This is like a good character moment for him because it's like, okay, he cares about these people. And
Yeah.
he's not just going to like spit on them for failing. He cares enough to be like, it is my responsibility for you to succeed.
And it's also this good moment of him kind of like starting to soften toward them just a little tiny bit.
Yeah.
Like, he's still hard on them, but you're starting to see that there's like an underlying affection for the paladins.
Yeah.
Like, Creo is outright affectionate toward the paladins and likes them a lot. Ansgar, it takes a little bit longer. So then Shondo, Andrew, and Bonnie randomly pick the team captain arrows from the quiver, because that's how they do random in this. Shondo chooses Patrick and Jasmine for his team. Bonnie chooses Adria and Leticia. And Andrew chooses Christian and Lena. And they start to tussle with swords. They're learning how to use swords and shields. It's clear that they've had this additional training because they are too good and too uninjured for people who've never picked up a sword before.
Yeah, I mean, like, I've done a little bit of stage combat. So it seemed to me where it was like, you do these strikes and I'll do the blocks, then I do those strikes and you do the blocks. It seems like they're doing the same, like, attack parry combo each time.
Yeah.
Which is, like, it's fine. Like, I'm not dissing the show for that.
Yeah, but it's clear it's not the first moment ever they've picked up a sword.
Yeah, it's clear that they're not trying to kill each other.
Yes.
And this is one of my favorite moments, is Shondo and Christian are fighting.
Yes.
And Asgard goes up to Shondo and goes, what is his greatest weakness? And Shondo points like 2 fingers at him, like super intensely.
Yeah, like a Disney cast member.
And says, his right arm when he attacks. Which is a super, like, MMA thing to see.
Yeah, this is Shondo's wheelhouse.
Where it's like, when he attacks, he leaves himself open. That's where I would strike him. And then he goes up to Christian. He goes, what's Shondo's weakness? And he goes, his mind. Which is a super, like, different way to see things.
Yeah.
Where he's like, he's overly emotional and competitive. It's like, oh, all right, cool. Like, I think that's a cool, like, character establishing moment.
Yeah. Ansgar is insanely intense in this sequence.
Yes.
It's hot. I'm just gonna say it.
You need to know what's going wrong. If I'm out in the battle, Creo, come here.
Ansgar?
He's not a courageous guy. And if I go to battle with him, I want to know that. You need to know the weak points, because you need to cover up for them. War is nothing nice. What I'm doing is preparing you.
Grand Vizier is also watching, full stank face.
Yeah, it's not hot.
Yeah, it's not even a little bit hot. And the Grand Vizier is not turned on by any of this.
No.
So Lena calls out, she's on a team with Andrew and Christian.
Yes, and Asgard, like, what's wrong with your team?
And
like, he's trying to stir the shit.
Yeah. And Lena calls out Christian and Andrew's bromance.
Mm-hmm.
And that is her term. It's the only, like, slang term we hear fairly often in the show is bromance.
Yeah.
And she's sharp about it, and they kind of both, like, try to underplay it because Andrew realizes that Christian is being seen as a weakness for him.
Yeah.
In something that is reminiscent, yet again, of opposite worlds. JR is super likable in early episodes, but the longer he spends with Jeffrey, the less likable he becomes.
Yeah.
This is Andrew and Christian, because especially in the previous episode, Christian's kind of a snake.
Yeah.
So Andrew is less and less likable because he's close to Christian. And so he's concerned about Christian being a weakness for him.
Yes.
So Leticia refuses to point out weaknesses in Adria and Bonnie. She puts them over and, like, talks about how great they are. And Ansgar is unhappy.
Yeah.
But you bore me to death. Stop being so nice!
Stop being so nice!
And it's one of the only times you see a cast member corpse.
Oh, does someone...
Bonnie kind of does.
Oh.
Like, he yells, "Stop being so nice," and then Bonnie smiles. And you're like, no, that's just, what did he just say? Mm-hmm. Then Ansgar, like, makes fun of Creo, calls him a wuss, like, kind of all but calls him a wuss.
Yeah.
And the Vizier does some more stank facing, which I felt the need to point out.
Yeah, more stank face.
And then the twist is you are not battling the other teams. You're going to be in a 3-way battle against your teammates.
Yes.
So this is now a huge problem, in particular for Lena and Jasmine.
Yeah.
Because Lena is up against Andrew and Christian, who are larger men, and Jasmine is up against Shondo and Patrick, who are the largest men.
Yes.
So Jasmine's at this, like... And Jasmine is also the smallest competitor.
Yes, she's tiny.
So then they take them to the Battle Dome.
Yes.
Welcome to the Battle Dome.
Yeah, and it's very much a Thunderdome type, like, where everyone's around you. Coliseum feel.
Yes.
And you climb up into this, like, thing, and there's, like, kind of like a balance beam of sorts.
Yeah, it looks like maybe hay bales?
Well, yeah, there's hay bales in the middle, but, like, there's a balance beam around it, and then each one has a path to the middle.
Okay.
So the object is you stay on the balance beam, you attack with your sword and your shield to knock your competitors off the balance beams into the hay.
Yes.
So we're going to have some battles.
Yes, and then the first to fall from each team will be sent to the Fates.
Yes.
It will not be, like, it's not going to be Shondo, Patrick, and Jasmine going to the Fates.
Yes, the first to fall from each team, which is another, like, similar to the Arrow Challenge, where it's like 2 people could just team up on someone.
Yeah. So then the winner from each team will be sent to the final battle to decide who gets the mark.
Right.
So first, it's Lena, Christian, and Andrew.
Yes.
Predictably, Lena gets wrecked.
Yeah.
Because she's small.
Because she's small. She busts her face, right?
She does. She gets hit in the face real hard. She goes down swinging. Like, she fights. And then Christian gets rocked by Andrew. Because Andrew is going for it. And Andrew doesn't want to be weak.
Right.
So Lena's out first, but Andrew's moving on.
Right.
Adria and Bonnie try to double team Leticia.
Yeah, and she's immediately like, really?
But then Adria trips.
Adria just takes a bad step and is like,
yeah.
Oh, bother.
Yeah, and it is a little bit of that. Like, that's kind of her attitude. Like,
yes.
Oh.
I lost to gravity.
And then Bonnie puts up a better fight than Christian does. Because, like, Andrew immediately wrecks Christian. Bonnie puts up a fight, but Leticia does win.
Yes.
Now, for that team, this was a difficult day in their lives. For Shondo, this is Tuesday.
Yeah. Shondo is excited.
Now, Jasmine makes a power move, but is taken out fairly quickly. He also manages to pretty easily defeat Patrick.
Right.
This game does kind of suck for Jasmine and Lena.
It does.
And both of them make it a point to say so.
Yeah.
In the talking
Jasmine,
points.
like, is legit like, well, this wasn't fair.
And to be fair, like, if I'm being a small girl, I can super see where, like, you know, especially Jasmine. Jasmine's up against, like, 2 brick wall people. And she is, like, 5'3" and 100 pounds.
And I agree with this. I also feel like we had not had something that was purely physical.
Yeah.
Yet. And, like, eventually you gotta have one. There is that social economical part of this where, like, Jasmine could have said to, like, Shondo, like, hey, please protect me.
Yeah.
And maybe he would have done it, and they could have just gone out after Patrick together.
Yeah.
Like, there was a route that they could have taken. but we never see that happen.
Right. So then, the final is Leticia, Andrew, and Shondo.
Yes.
And this is where we see this interesting moment of underestimation for the first time. Underestimating other competitors does become a theme in the show.
Yes.
Andrew and Shondo immediately focus on each other.
Mm-hmm.
And Andrew Goldberg spears Shondo. And gets him out pretty quickly. So Andrew spears Shondo. And then after getting Shondo out, he goes after Leticia, who wins.
Yeah, she just kind of like redirects his energy.
Yeah.
Because he goes for another spear.
She judos him.
Yeah.
Like, kind of uses his own momentum to launch him into the pit.
Yeah.
It's a crowning moment of heartwarming.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's thrilled.
Yeah.
Because Leticia was at a disadvantage going in against Shondo and Andrew, who were both, like, super big jocks.
Yeah.
And she wins the mark of strategy, which I think is an appropriate mark for her to have won.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't know if, like, Shondo would win the mark of strategy, because his whole thing
My
would have
strategy
been, like,
is I'm bigger than everyone.
Yeah. She's beaming, so is everyone else. Ansgar is looking at her like, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He's always impressed by the competitors who do well. And I guess the actor's tics are that, like, his version of being impressed is extraordinarily sexually charged.
Yeah.
And Leticia is really proud of Jasmine, and Leticia and Jasmine are very close.
Yes.
Leticia looks up to Jasmine. Because we saw that in the previous episode where, like, Jasmine voted for Jim because it was the right thing to do. Leticia went along to get along and regrets it. Christian promises that he and Andrew have Lena's back, but, like, their word doesn't feel like it's worth anything by this point.
Yeah.
So this kind of feels like this weird Christian-Andrew half-Lena alliance is already falling apart in episode 4.
Yeah.
Because Christian and Andrew don't feel honest, and it feels like anyone outside the two of them is secondary.
Yeah, I get you.
Like, Christian and Andrew will help each other first. It's opposite worlds again.
Yeah.
With Lauren and
Sam,
and RJ is third.
Yeah.
We go into the Hall of Fate, and for the first and only time, and I have a problem with this being the only time they do it, the Fates are hooded and cloaked. Because darkness is
what
coming.
was this?
And because darkness is coming.
Yeah.
It would have made sense if they were hooded and cloaked for the next several episodes.
No, it probably just chilly that night.
Yeah, but they justify it.
Yeah.
Instead of being like, it cold, they say darkness is coming.
Mm-hmm.
And they try to sound really impressive about it, when really it's like, those dresses are not very thick.
Yes. And then next week it's a bit humid.
Yes.
We took it off. Darkness is coming. But, I'm verklempt.
So the bottom 3 are Jasmine, Lena, and Adria.
Yes.
And it's a skull smashing challenge.
Yeah,
they're winging skulls at you, and you have to hit them with a sword.
Yeah, it's a bit weird.
It's a batting cage.
It's a batting cage. It's also the only one where people take turns.
Yes.
So there's always that little bit of, like, fear factor strategy of the person who goes first didn't get to watch anyone else do it, while the other people are like, okay, this is the mistake they're making, I will not make that mistake. Just throwing that out there.
So Jasmine and Lena perform okay, but Adria wins. So Adria is safe, and
Yes.
Jasmine and Lena. The group is very divided in the conversation.
Yes.
So it's, should we go with Jasmine? Should we go with Lena? They both fought well. They're both intelligent. We haven't seen Lena perform super well to this point.
Yeah,
we
she's
did see
been
Jasmine,
middle of the road.
Yeah, Lena's pretty middle of the pack right now. Jasmine performed really well in the previous challenge.
Yeah, on horseback.
So then, Leticia and Shondo support Jasmine, and everyone else supports Lena.
Yeah.
Lena embraces Jasmine, and Lena's very upset. Not as upset as Leticia, because that was her, best friend in the castle.
Mm-hmm.
And, Lena confesses that in a talking head that she feels like the game changes once you've been in a Fates challenge. Once you feel like you were about to go home, suddenly, like, she gets the game.
Okay.
And she effusively thanks everyone who votes for her.
Yeah.
And she said, like, I didn't expect that. Thank you so much. And then the queen rides in, and she's perfectly healthy.
Yeah.
Like, everything's good. They're doing chores again in the castle. Ansgar's flirting real hard with Leticia.
Yeah, like he does.
And an ogre breaks in! End of episode!
Oh no, the troll in the dungeon!
Yep, this is Troll in the Dungeon.
Troll in the dungeon.
Again, now every credit sequence is the Hall of Fates without the Fates in it. And then the ghost image of whoever's been eliminated.
Yes.
So, episode 5.
Troll in the dungeon.
Troll in the Dungeon. They have a battle plan. The ogre and Ansgar are fighting one-on-one.
Yes.
And the group is supposed to create a scorpion.
Yes.
To dispatch the ogre.
That's the big crossbow. They're putting together the scorpion again.
Yes.
And Asgar is fighting this ogre and screaming.
There he is! Scorpion!
What was that?
Our fan's gone.
Come on, guys. Is it ready? Get the set.
You need to have the set. Scorpion!
Can we try it?
You have an arrow?
Move it. Let's move it this way. Oh, God, guys, it's falling apart.
We have the strength.
Any day now.
Anytime now. Once again, brings up that idea that there should be a fail state of, like, if the scorpion gets built, they could kill the ogre and save Asgar. If they fail, the ogre will kill him. That is not what happens.
They are not given all the pieces.
What?
They were not given all the pieces to finish the scorpion.
Okay, so it's forced story.
Yes.
Of them forced to look incompetent.
And they also cannot get down in time. Like, the fight is staged in an area the paladins cannot get to from where they are.
Okay, this makes sense.
So they cannot go to his aid. I can't remember which paladin this interview was with. I want to say it was Bonnie. The interviews do blend together a little bit because they're all talking about some similar things. And she says, like, how smart would it have really been for us to have been able to fire a crossbow at a moving Ansgar and ogre? And, like, it's one of those moments where you're like, the ogre is really an actor. Like, we probably shouldn't shoot a crossbow at this poor man.
Mm-hmm.
So Ansgar gets his second wind and absolutely beats the crap out of the ogre.
Yeah, this is an important character moment because we haven't seen him be a badass.
Yeah, it's a big, like, daddy's home moment. Like, it's... It's what my note said. I know I was sober when we watched this episode.
So daddy's home and he kills the ogre, and it's to establish him as being competent because that's not something we've really seen yet. It's something we've assumed.
Yeah, he is assumed to be this great knight, but we haven't really gotten to see him walk the walk.
Yeah.
So this is kind of like this showpiece for this character,
Yes.
so that the paladins and the audience are not like, so who is this rando?
Yeah, this is again showing the show's value of the story over a reality show game.
And Shondo is impressed. Shondo gives him, like, the highest compliments of Shondo.
Right.
Which are like, he's a G!
Yeah, he's a G.
Like, it's a great moment, because, like, it's game-respecting game. Shondo is a great fighter.
Right.
Who is respecting how good Ansgar does in the fight. So then we have the challenge. It is about fortifying the castle and protect, like, it's kind of like a practice attacker-defender.
Right.
Can you fortify a castle? Can you attack a castle?
Yes.
This is when the challenges, I like the design of the challenges because they make sense.
Yeah.
They are serving the story. Which,
Yeah.
if you're going to have a story-driven reality show, the challenges don't feel as arbitrary as they could. So we have 8 people left, so it's 2 teams of 4. And the challenge is you are going to build a barricade against the door of your castle, which is like a wall with a door in it. Then you're going to go around to where your battering ram is, and you are going to try to destroy the other team's door.
Yeah.
So the Christian and Lena are the team captains, and Christian chooses first, and he chooses Patrick, and Andrew is unhappy.
Yeah.
So Lena snaps up Andrew immediately.
Mm-hmm.
Christian chooses Adria. Lena chooses Leticia. Then Christian chooses Bonnie. And Lena, can't believe her luck at this point. She's like, yeah, sure, I'll take Shondo.
I'll take Shondo, yeah.
She is a little bewildered that she picked second and still got Andrew, Leticia, and Shondo.
Yeah.
Who were, kind of the power players at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And they're working really hard, and Team Lena builds a fantastic barricade. Lots of strategy involved.
Yeah, they have logs, they have barrels, they have a wagon wheel.
They have sandbags.
And they have sandbags that they can fill. And basically, Lena makes an amazing barricade.
Yeah, it's like Lego.
And Christian has a door with stuff in front of it.
Yeah, Christian's is what the inside of your closet door probably looks like when company's coming over.
Mm-hmm.
So then they have to go around the other side.
Yes, and grab the battering ram.
And there's a certain way you have to do it. Christian is told not to try to, jam something in the doors.
Yeah.
And he's immediately caught doing so.
Well, what I remember is he says something like...
What you think? Oh, hold it. You must use the battering ram to break through. Go away. Don't do it.
We're wasting time.
This is not allowed, I told you! Christian, what about obeying orders, huh? Never go there!
The way he says it makes me think that the first element is, stop standing in front of the battering ram, you moron. Mm-hmm. You will die. And then, I have to be in character. Obey orders, it's an army.
Yeah. Because... And, this is also the second time we've seen Christian low-key cheat.
Yes. Again, playing into this theory that I've developed in my mind of Christian's evil.
Yeah. And again, Christian gets caught cheating, but it doesn't matter.
No.
Because Team Lena wins.
Yes. Crushes it. And then Christian reveals that was his plan.
He had chosen the weaker players on purpose to keep his alliance safe.
Yeah, so his alliance is on the other team. So now he's like, all I have to do is either win the Fates Challenge, or if I lose, my allies will vote to keep me.
Yes. Which is strategic gameplay in another reality show.
This is a brilliant move.
Yeah.
There's a part of me that really respects this idea. The major problem with this is we never see the moment of him going up to Andrew going, yo, I threw the challenge to keep you and Lena and who else? Leticia, maybe?
He doesn't intentionally keep Leticia and Shondo safe. They're kind of anti-collateral damage.
Mm-hmm.
They are good to keep around. But they're not explicitly in the alliance with them.
Right. But if he goes up to them... if he goes up to the four of them and says, yo, I threw that challenge to keep you all safe.
Yeah.
Vote to keep me. That's 4 people.
Yeah.
That means he's safe.
Yes.
Mathematically.
Absolutely.
Strategy-wise, it's great. But we never see that moment where he tells them. They get wind of it somehow, but it's never made clear how.
And then we have the moment with the medal. And... again, just like in the first challenge with teams, when they say, who on your team should get the medal?
Mm-hmm.
Shondo immediately says, it's our captain, it's Lena. Andrew and Leticia both agree immediately.
Mm-hmm.
Lena almost cries and wins the Mark of Ingenuity. And now we have seen Lena emerge as a player.
Oh, it should be noted, though, that, at this point... Shondo already has a badge.
Yes.
And
so do Andrea and Leticia.
So she's the only one without one. So maybe that also played into it.
Yeah.
Of just she doesn't have a badge.
But it's still done out of kindness. We don't know what the marks are going to mean yet. Yeah. So far, they haven't really meant anything but you won a challenge.
Yeah.
We don't know if they're going to end up being really important later.
Right.
So, Christian has an excuse for why he didn't do well. And Shondo is kind of getting tired of Christian.
Yeah. He's just failing again.
So all 4 of the losing team members are going to go into the Fates Challenge.
Yes.
Instead of 3. So this is Patrick, Adria, Bonnie, and Christian.
Mm-hmm.
So the challenge here, and this was your least favorite of the Fates challenges.
Yes, it is.
So I'm going to let you explain it because you kind of
All
had
right.
some beef with it.
So they're locked in these cages, these big metal cages, but your legs are big enough, or the holes are in it are big enough so your legs can go out. So you're running inside this cage.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea is you have to get through this obstacle course to get to the key to free yourself.
Yes.
Which, on its own, that is kind of a cool challenge.
Yeah.
The issue is there are also obstacles in the way. Like there's trees and sticks and stuff that you got to kind of crawl through in this cage. And it's very difficult. But there's not enough room for all 4 of them to attack an obstacle at the same time.
Right.
So the fact that it like bottlenecks like that,
Mm-hmm.
you're creating an artificial order.
Yes.
Because there could have been a situation where, granted, you got to that obstacle first, so you have an advantage, but your advantage should not be, I have to wait for you to complete it.
Yeah, because there's one point where there's 4 people, but there's only 2 ways through.
Yeah. And, like, it's one of the first things that they encounter. But, like, there's an element of, like, if I'm exhausted, I could lay down and rest, and I'm not going to lose any ground.
Yeah.
As long as I'm just clogging up this obstacle. This is the only time where I'm like, this is a flaw in game design.
It's also another very physical challenge in that the cages all appear to be the same size and weight.
Yeah.
And Adria is smaller and slighter.
Mm-hmm.
And Bonnie is less athletic. Patrick is another one of the, like, big guys. And Christian is, like, kind of leaner.
Yeah.
So, like, the weight of this cage is going to be more difficult for Adria, who is shorter.
Yeah.
And Bonnie, who's less athletic, and Christian, who is leaner, than it is going to be for Patrick, who is a tank.
Yeah.
So, Patrick immediately, like, body checks Christian.
Yeah, because he's sick of him.
And, they get through, and everyone's trying to, like, go through this, and they all kind of, like, lose each other pretty quickly.
Yeah,
in the
Patrick
course.
basically takes off.
Yeah.
And part of that is the fact that only Patrick and Christian can go through the first obstacle.
And Christian gets stuck.
And Christian gets stuck, clogging it up, and Patrick gets through. So, there's this issue of I'm trying to remember the exact order here, but if Christian's stuck in front of you, and then Bonnie goes and gets stuck, like, there's nothing you can do.
Yeah, like if
to
Bonnie
catch up to Patrick.
If Bonnie gets stuck, Adria is, like, in trouble.
Yeah, and it's just like, I have to wait for you to complete.
So, Adria gets through the obstacle, but Patrick, like, just wins.
Yeah, Patrick wins way before anyone else is even close.
Christian's still in the obstacle when, like, Christian just gets out when
Yeah.
Patrick wins.
Yeah.
Patrick has gotten the crap smacked out of his face.
Yeah,
like,
that's right. He busts his eye out.
Yeah, he gets, like, a really terrible shiner.
This is the only one where I'm like, this was a bad game that was poorly designed.
Yeah, and he's not even the only injury. We'll finish talking about this. He roars, he is hurt, and Creo is alarmed.
Yeah, it's a little scary for Creo.
Like, Creo reacts the way that's perfectly in character, but also is probably the actor's reaction of, like, oh no.
Yeah.
It's a very human reaction of, like, oh no. So Bonnie is struggle busing. Like, Bonnie is on the struggle bus in this one. Christian and Adria do complete the course. They're stuck in the Hall of Fates, kind of waiting for Bonnie. Adria is upset enough about this to cry.
Yeah.
Adria is terrified. They can't see anything. They're worried about Bonnie. And then it's clear the producers have told them, like, you can't go back out there to get her.
Yeah.
Until she screams.
She screams in pain because, if I understand what happened correctly, she's holding on to the cage, and then like pushes on something so the cage rolls over her own hand.
Yeah.
So all of her weight and the cage weight is crushing her hand. And then you're kind of like stuck there.
Yeah. She yelps and Patrick is off before she's done screaming.
Yeah.
Like, she's not even done crying out, and Patrick's on his feet, moving.
Yes.
Adria's on its heels, and even Christian follows.
Mm-hmm. And they free her.
And then Patrick rage yeets her cage.
Yeah, he throws it really far.
And pretty violently. Like, he yeets that thing.
Yeah, this is like...
It's the proper use of the term yeet.
I feel like he shares my feeling of like, this was a bad challenge. Like, you guys screwed up with this one.
Like, you gotta figure, he's hurt.
Yeah.
And
he busted his eye up. And then
Bonnie, the cast member he is closest to, is hurt.
Yeah.
I'd be mad.
I'd be real mad too.
So then, like, Bonnie's hand is hurt. But Bonnie, Christian, and Adria are the 3 who are up for elimination.
Yes, so there's 3 this time.
So the other 7 competitors, the other 5 competitors. Yeah, I'm not Patrick. I'm not a math teacher. The other 5 competitors, the winning team and Patrick, are discussing what needs to happen. So essentially, if you get 2 votes, you're good.
Yes,
because it's 5 people. So it doesn't make any sense to like all vote for one person. So I think there's also like a strategy of like them kind of trying to figure out like, well, if I vote for this person and you vote for that person, we can keep these 2.
Right.
Like I feel like that's not shown, but those are probably the conversations that are being had.
Yeah, this is definitely implied by how the votes come out.
Patrick is defending Bonnie to the last in this conversation. It's one of the times you see someone fight hard to keep another person.
Mm-hmm.
And like, so we get to the Hall of Fates and it's, you know, Adria, Christian, Bonnie. And then Bonnie's in a talking head and she says, she takes off her medal.
Mm-hmm.
Her mark of leadership from the first game. And she says, like, if I don't make it, she's like, I know when I turn around, I'm going to see Patrick.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to give this to him to remember me by.
Mm-hmm.
And it's this very sweet moment. And it's kind of this thing where you see Christian and Andrew are talking the talk of the close friendship, while Patrick and Bonnie are much more quietly walking the walk. Like, their bond is so much more authentic feeling.
Yeah.
And so then we see the vote. Lena and Andrew champion Adria.
Yes.
Which is a huge thing, because they are in alliance with Christian.
Mm-hmm.
They choose Adria. Patrick and Shondo choose Bonnie.
Mm-hmm.
And Leticia champions Christian and tells us in a talking head, everyone should turn around and see someone standing behind them.
Yeah.
And it's a redeeming character moment for Leticia because it's her using her vote for the right reason this time.
Yeah.
It's funny because she's voting for the same person that she did when she voted for the wrong reason.
Yeah.
But she is voting to be kind this time.
Yeah.
Instead of voting because of peer pressure. And then in Christian's departing talking head, he says, like, yeah, I may have compromised my integrity. And it's the only talking head where someone's like, yeah, I
messed this up.
I probably didn't do
I done bad.
Thing. Bonnie cries hysterically into Patrick and Adria and says, you came back for me. And they go, like, of course we did.
Mm-hmm.
And it's this really fantastic, real fantasy novel moment of, like, the bard, the heart of the group, falls. And that's always the person who falls, because it's always, like, the weakest person is the bard. But the other team members care so much about them, they come back for them. And Leticia tells the rest of the group exactly why she voted for Christian.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone respects it.
Yeah.
She's like, I wanted him to not turn around and see no one. Nobody should turn around and see an empty hall.
Yeah.
And the music's, like, really jovial because it's unlike Jim, which felt like a really sad elimination. Because both Katie and Ashley felt like we hardly knew you eliminations.
Mm-hmm.
Jim's was sad. Christians doesn't feel sad.
Yeah. And this then leads to what I believe to be the scariest moment of this show. They're all, like, doing jobs again.
Mm-hmm.
And Asgard shows up. Because it should be noted that Asgard never goes to see the Fates so far.
No, it's just Creo.
And he goes up, he goes up to Leticia and was like, so how was the challenge?
No, Patrick. He starts calling him Lady Patrick because his eye is so jacked up.
Oh, that's right.
That it looks like he's... And the way his black eye is, it does kind of look like he's wearing, like, a very nice dramatic smoky eye on only one.
Yes.
Lady Patrick?
I don't know about the lady part, but...
You look like a lady. We should get the second eye, too.
I'm just waiting for it to come down and drop, sir.
How did the girls do?
They did good. Bonnie didn't finish. She hurt herself.
She hurt herself?
She
Where?
hurt her thumb. But if we hadn't come together, she would have gotten up and finished. I have no doubt about that. She's not a quitter.
I need to see about that. Bonnie! Bonnie! Come over here, please. Hold the sword.
And I was immediately like, oh, no.
Yeah, I was so afraid it was going to be
This is going to be an elimination. Oh, no. She's going to get Mighty Duxed.
Yeah.
Where he's like, turn the hockey stick, and he can't, so he gets cut off from the team.
Yeah, this was a moment I was, like, genuinely terrified. Because, like, by this point, I'd grown pretty fond of Bonnie.
Yeah.
Like everyone else in the cast.
And then she's like, I got it. It hurts a little, but I'll be cool. And I was like, yeah!
Yeah, like... She, like, it's not broken. She just, like, jams it or something.
Yeah.
And probably, as someone who gets hurt in minor ways fairly often, sometimes you yell because you're scared.
Yeah.
Like, when you smack your head on something and you yelp, it's almost more because you're startled by the pain than an actual injury. And I could see Bonnie being scared, frustrated, startled, and in pain.
Yeah.
And, like, those things compounding to be really upsetting and then start the screaming and crying.
Yeah.
And so then we kind of have this, like, nice moment where Ansgar kind of just bros out a little bit with the cast.
Well, it's because Bonnie has written a song.
Well, he bros out with them and then this comes up. And it turns out somebody, like, throws her under the bus, but I can't remember who does it.
It's like, Bonnie's written you a song.
And it's this, like, very middle school, like, Katie has something to tell you. Like, then, you know how, like, in middle school, girls would do that to each other all the time of, like, you know, oh, Brittany has a message for you. Hi! And I'm already, like, folding in on myself in cringe. Not because of the quality of the song. Like, she hasn't started singing yet. But because... if you wrote someone a song, you probably don't want to sing it in front of them.
No! And especially because he's like, so sing me that song. She's like, I was going to do it in private. And he's like, no. You will do it now.
Sir Ansgar, I finished your song.
Maybe you could sing it for us.
Maybe later, yeah, I would love to.
What about now?
Right now?
Yeah, it's a great moment.
I would need everyone here.
I get Lady Patrick and Chandra over here.
Yeah, okay.
Please move over. Bonnie's going to sing a song.
Please realize that it's all in admiration for you.
You make me blush.
All right.
When he rides on his horse, he's an unstoppable force. Raise your glass for Sir Ansgar the Fierce. And women swoon from his gaze as he handles his blade. Raise your glass for Sir Ansgar the Fierce. His stare is like ice when he says, don't be so nice. Raise your glass for Sir Ansgar the Fierce.
And every blow landed when he fought an ogre
single-handed. Raise your glass for Sir Ansgar the Fierce.
Ho, ho, ho! I'm flattered. Thank you for making me laugh.
But it becomes this, like, very sweet moment because she's clearly done it before with the rest of the cast. Because, like, Adria jumps in and they all jump in on the refrain.
She's got backup dancers. There's a dance.
Yeah, like, it's...
raise a glass.
Like, it's very cute. Like, it reminds me of the song Gaston from Beauty and the Beast.
Yes!
in like a good way
Mhm.
of like, it's them kind of essentially making Chuck Norris facts about Ansgar.
Yeah.
Like, it's this very cute, very like fun, silly moment.
I love Asgar's face during this. It's just this like, I was kind of kidding, and now there's a song about me. Like, this weird smile.
Like, where you're flattered, but you're also like, kill me!
Yeah.
Like, it's this very good news. There is a clip of this one, so
Excellent.
we
We will be
show
playing
that.
that.
Yeah, this is on YouTube, so good news, everyone. And he's flattered and laughing, and I think it's funny because you can kind of see him blush a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And blushing is like this is an actor. Blushing is something that's incredibly hard to fake.
Yes.
So this actor is clearly like bitten off more than he could chew, goading the paladins.
Yeah.
And then like we see this nice moment, and then darkness begins to fall over the castle.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how the episode ends.
Yes.
So we are 2 hours deep into this podcast.
Yeah, I
roughly.
think we should make this a two-parter.
Yeah, we are only 5 episodes in. I kind of had a feeling with this one because there is a lot of lore and there's a lot of explanation.
Yeah.
And always with reality shows, you have to establish at least 15 people.
Yeah, which is tough.
12 competitors, Creo, Ansgar, Queen, Vizier. That's 16 already.
But I will, to kind of give it our usual goodbye here, I will tell you where I was at on this show.
Okay.
Because I remember I turned to you and I said, I'm pretty sure this is going to be my favorite show that I vote Stay Doomed. Because at this point I'm like, I'm thoroughly entertained. I think this is like super fun. I like all the people. But as a reality show, I don't think it's hitting the mark. So that's where I was at this point.
I was already trying to figure out how I could argue to save this show.
So
because I did, and a big thing is the casting directors deserve big ups, because I think the show, if everybody had been like a backstabber, I don't think the show would have any magic to it.
Right.
But like moments like the song with Sir Ansgar the Fierce, like I left this episode like really feeling good about this show.
But like I like this show at this point. I love this show at this point. It's very entertaining, but I think it's failing at what it was at being a reality show. So like I think its merit of a reality show was so low that I'm like, I am enjoying the hell out of this. I see why there can't be more.
Yeah, I was trying to defend.
We're halfway through. This opinion will change. I will tell you that much.
Yeah, and I was already kind of sold. Like, I was already like, I really like this show. And my first thought is, there's 11 other kingdoms. My first thought was like, we got other kingdoms, guys. Were there 11? How many of these kingdoms were there? I keep saying 12 kingdoms. There might have been 10, which would make sense with how many things there were. You know what I mean? There are 12. Okay, good.
I saw the document for the first time because Lara does research and I do not.
Yeah.
And it is written in fancy font and it made me smile.
Yeah, and apparently Paladin Jim did a lot of work on this, which is super cool.
So anything else we want to add before we wrap this up? Because we've already gone way too long.
Yeah. I really am enjoying this show. We're like halfway through. This is such a different show than, I think if you want to do something in the week between these two episodes, you might want to listen to our episodes on Whodunit and Opposite Worlds.
Yeah, it definitely paints our opinion of this.
Yeah, because I think those two shows, when we were discussing, because we do discuss the shows a little bit off mic, those two shows feel like cousins to this show in a weird way.
Yeah.
Like the hyper immersive element of Opposite Worlds and the
alternate reality show.
Yes. And like the play acting aspect of Whodunit.
Yeah.
So, thank you to the Quest Army for the quest book, because that's been really helpful in everything with this podcast. And let's do our normal sign-offs.
Yes, where can people find us?
You can email us at thestaydoomedshow@gmail.com, or on Facebook and Twitter at Stay Doomed.
And if you want to talk to me and maybe start a D&D campaign, I'm at TV's Noah.
If you want more information about the other 11 kingdoms of EverRealm, I'm at Priorities. Until next time, stay doomed.